former Obama economic advisor. Fox News political contributor Tammy Bruce, also Independent Women's Voice president. Also along with us today, Veronica Dagher, Wall Street Journal columnist. Veronica, let me start with you. I got to tell you, every day I'm seeing it. You know, yesterday it was J.B. Hunt on the trucking side. Of course, today Netflix was the top stock of the day, perhaps the year, a reflection of consumer sentiment and consumers actually going out there. And earnings overall, what do you make of it?
Consumers are feeling good. Their spending sentiment's up. Companies are awash with cash, so much so that they're not sure what to do with it. We're seeing business reinvestment again at a nicer pace. All these things are very supportive of earnings going into the second quarter as well. We're looking at a really nice, strong year. We've got a lot of good tailwinds to this market. So if you're an investor, yeah, you're worried about geopolitical tensions. Yeah, you're worried about some of the volatility. But overall, the fundamentals look really good.
You know, Tammy, one of the problems, though, right now is that the Republicans are still having a hard time selling this tax cut, which I find to be amazing.
Yeah, it's very, very, very strange, isn't it? And yet I think it's less about knowing how to sell it, but the fact that it makes the president look good. The fact of the matter is these tax cuts matter also because more people are working, right? 3 million new jobs created. You've got a dynamic where it's like for regular family of four, I think as the president noted, at least a couple $1,000s in the tax cut. But the sentiment is up because not only will they get more money in the tax that they file, but they've got more money immediately, as we've known, in their pocket, and that has continued. This is why he's been stabilized at 50 to 51% approval, because since January, that's soared because they realized he was telling the truth. So that adds to confidence. They've got the actual money. They know that he keeps his promises. This changes the entire scheme.
Robert, and it's not to me just the taxes, but we're 6.1 million job openings. We're seeing wages start to edge up here a little bit. I think businesses are starting to invest a lot more. I mean, we've got almost everything firing on all cylinders right now.
I would respectfully disagree with that.
Something told me you would.
No. I wouldn't say all cylinders are firing. And, I would say there are some really good things going on. I'm glad we're all using the words tax cut and not tax reform, because it was a tax cut. There was no real reform done. Listen, when we cut taxes, that's a good thing. When the market's going up, that's a good thing.
How come no Democrats voted for it, though? Let me just ask you that.
You'd have to ask them. Let me just finish. I think that you have to be concerned about debt and deficits. So we would say that's a concern. Secondly, we should just be clear on the corporate taxes. $200 billion have gone to stock buybacks, and to dividends. It hasn't necessarily gone and trickled down to the employee.
Well, can we also be clear about how many people watching the show have 401k and pension funds that own those stocks?
Yeah.
So the $200 billion is serving a public purpose, isn't it?
We don't disagree that that's good for pensions, but only 50%.
Only 50%.
No,
so only hundreds of millions of Americans are benefiting.
Charles, only 50% of the country, are in stocks. That being said, we would like to see more go to wages. You would agree with that?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, more is going to wages. And I tell you what stood out to me today. Johnson & Johnson. The CEO of Johnson & Johnson says we're going to spend $30 billion more on research and development over the next 4 years, in part because of the tax cuts. It's going to be hard to quantify who gets that money and where it goes, but $30 billion being poured into the economy, we know that's going to help people.
That's right, and we saw Goldman today. They decided not to do buybacks. So we are potentially seeing a shift in companies.
So the stock was down $5. Let's see what they say tomorrow.
Investors weren't so happy about
Charles, let me ask you.
But we are potentially seeing a shift in how companies spend their money. It'll be interesting to see, though, if they are further incentivized to do so.
And the operative word there was their money.
For business, let me just remind people, 9.4 million businesses small businesses in this country owned by women. 3 million of that, almost 10 million businesses owned by women of color. So when we talk about the business impact of the tax cuts, it's going immediately to women, their families, businesses run out of their homes, small businesses that impact the entire family and their children. This is why when you've got kind of the expansive impact of the choice the president makes, and when we talk about large businesses like Johnson & Johnson, but those 10 million businesses owned by women are significantly impacted by this action.
Right. And we know small businesses do most of the hiring.
That's right.
Charles, why do you think you made the statement Republicans are not touting the tax plan? Why do you think that?
No, they are touting it. I'm saying that the mainstream media And the political opposition has done a good job so far of making people feel bad that, hey, I'm only getting 2,000 and someone else is getting more than me. Politics of envy, unfortunately, seems to be working, but I think it has had a major impact in this economy.
No
and I think
question.
that benefits all Americans.
More money in more people's pockets, growing economy, those are all good things.
And we don't disagree. I mean, listen, government, they spend too much money. We find it to be true for Democrats and Republicans. They have no discipline. They're going to take in a record amount of tax revenue this year and still spend more than they take in.
I just want to be clear, from 2010 to 2016, I was for a tax cut, but I was for revenue neutral. So I have not changed from where I am on some fiscal discipline, whether I'm the right side or left side. For 6 years, we were all talking, including the Republicans, about a revenue neutral bill. That did not happen.
But success is infectious, right? We know success begat success. And the Fed spent a lot of time and printed up $4 trillion of money to try to get that so-called virtuous cycle. It never really happened. I believe it's starting to happen right now organically.
It seems to be, and that's a whole other question on investors' minds. What's the Fed going to do next? Because this economy, some people would argue it's a little hot. And so how many Fed hikes are we going to see this year? I'm getting a lot of questions from regular investors. Financial advisors are getting the same thing, saying, what does this mean for my portfolio from an inflation standpoint? Because if we do see inflation start to tick up more because of all this growth that's happening, how do I position myself as an investor? That's $1 million question.
Although it's a double-edged sword, because let's not forget, we all love when our paychecks inflate. We all love when the value of our homes inflate. We all love when that baseball card collection in the attic inflates in value. We like certain types of inflation. And in fact, Robert, the Fed's been trying to create inflation here for a long time.
Yeah, I would say that the things that you and I have agreed at, we did not think QE3 was necessary. They absolutely put too much, a little too much into the.
Are you afraid they're going to mess this up as they try to bring it all back?
I think that we're going to see more Fed hikes. I would say the bid is 4, not 3. And I think the bid offers 4.6. And I think that could panic the market a little. That being said, I think it's because the economy is growing better than we think.
Why did the banks all report these great numbers, Robert, go up initially and then get slaughtered? I mean, we saw it Friday with 3 big names and then today with Goldman Sachs.
So one of the biggest issues is they're not putting out enough loans. Because as the economy grows and there's so much cash on corporate hands, they don't need lending. They don't need lending even for acquisition finance. They're doing it with stock. So one of the things with the banks is you need to make money off interest income.
I would love to see them get back to good old-fashioned lending. Now, I know there's some bills that are circulating in Capitol Hill that might make that easier, but this idea of trying to trade your way to prosperity, I think, is goofy and has been backfiring on them.
Yeah, I mean, this is especially when it's been so long since we've had a framework where the inner city, where everywhere, rural areas, everybody is looking to grow and wants to expand. And we've almost have a generation that hasn't experienced that. And we want to get back into that, is this commitment locally from banks and others to feed this, because I think it became a habit, the Barack Obama suggestion that this was the new normal, and a generation was trained to that, even with George W. Bush, of course. Now we're in something that's very different, a Donald Trump framework of an action-based future where the government is helping you as opposed to simply, taking.
There are signs, Veronica, that we're on the cusp of a major surge in entrepreneurialism led by millennials. Do you believe that to be true?
And women.
Exactly.
A lot of the women I talk to on my podcast are entrepreneurs. We're hearing about more women starting businesses up. They're really excited. They're finding opportunity there. And young people as well. They don't have the tolerance for the corporate jobs 9 to 5 anymore. That's just not appealing.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all very much. Great comments.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.